Welcome everyone. We're going to start shortly. We invite you to please introduce yourselves in the chat box, and you can also just tell us a bit more about your businesses. This is a networking platform, so please share whatever information you would want us to know about when it comes to your business. And maybe some suggestions, or maybe you might have some questions already around resilience that we could also be looking into during the next hour.
I was hoping Sasha was going to make it on, but it looks like she's not on yet. We may have to start now, C4, but Sasha can always join in once.
Okay.
Once she does have the logins now, doesn't she?
Yeah, I've sent her the meeting code, the ID. Okay, I will definitely start. We did say 12 o'clock and we don't want to keep everybody waiting. So a very good afternoon to everyone. Welcome to our Business Resilience Masterclass. My name is SIPHOKAZI, and I am from the Lifelong Learning Academy. And yes, I'm very passionate about lifelong learning, and that's exactly why we are here to learn. And I'm going to be a masterclass facilitator for today. And I'm also going to, my role really for today is to introduce our topic for the day and also introduce our speakers, our guest speakers. And before I do that, I am going to hand over to my co-facilitator, my co-pilot, my partner in crime, that's what we call each other, Trish, to introduce herself.
Hi everybody, welcome. It looks like a lot of people haven't managed to get online, and I know about 2 or 3 weeks ago we had load shedding and we were inundated with emails afterwards to say, please share the video. We couldn't get online. So we will share the video with anyone that can't get online. But I think that's the problem. So I'm from Life Retreat, our own Life Retreat. We're situated at Lawrenceford Wine Estate in Somerset West in the Cape. And our focus is on wellness and mindfulness and resilience in the workplace. And SIPHOKAZI and I do workshops together in the workplace and run these webinars together. And our last theme, as everybody knows, was mindfulness. And the theme going forward is resilience. And I firmly believe that to be resilient, we have to first be mindful. So I think it's something that we need to focus on, because it's very difficult to be resilient if we're not mindful. So mindfulness brings us back to base, and from base we can make changes and be resilient. I today, as SIPHOKAZI mentioned, had to be very resilient, because the first thing we did when we got up was look at load shedding. And my office where I have been working had load shedding at 12, which means that it's on now. But fortunately we have the load shedding here is only at 4. So we made a plan to come through here. And that is part of being resilient, is not letting it get you down, but rather think out of the box and think, how can we make this work? And instead of thinking a problem and everyone's talking about the negativity of load shedding, let's just work around it and see how we can make our businesses work and our lives work. I still find a lot of people, even though we've been through 5 months of lockdown, are very resistant to change, which surprises me, because I thought people would come out of it with totally new perspectives. And I personally found today, I have a yoga studio as well, and a couple of people saying, I said I'm going to change everything around. We're going to be resilient, we're going to go with what people need, things are going to change, and it's a new opportunity to grow and survive and succeed in our new normal or no normal. But a lot of our teachers were very resistant to change. All they can say to me is, I want my old spot. And I keep saying, but your old spot was 6 months ago. We're living in a whole new world. Why would you want that spot? And what I realized is that people are reluctant to change, including people I work with, including so many people. And we really have changed, whether we like to accept it or not. Our circumstances have changed. And I think we need to really face that, and we really need to allow ourselves to go with the change in a positive direction. Because the more we resist it, the less resilient we're going to be, and the less likely we are to survive in our businesses. So I think resilience is very important, and we do need to be open to moving forward and changing with our new normal. I have a whole lot of information on resilience that I will be sending in a document when we send off our feedback and our link to the video. So you're welcome to read it. It's very, very interesting. And it's got a lot of practical tips. And also our guests on today will be sharing loads of information. So I'm very excited to hear their conversations and learn more about resilience. And I'm going to hand over back to SIPHOKAZI. Thanks, partner in crime.
Thank you, Trish. And when SASHA does come on, we'll definitely allow her the opportunity to introduce herself and also just to say a couple of words. And SASHA is from the Progressive Business Forum, as you can see from the presentation in front of us. And just before I introduce our guest speakers and our topics for this afternoon, I would like us just to take some time. Well, before that, let me just get into the Masterclass Protocols. Sorry, before I'm already jumping into the topic. Just some basics on Zoom. I'm sure all of us are quite familiar now with Zoom. So just keeping microphones on mute and cameras off or on, that's definitely optional, but I do know that it does help with network if you're struggling with network, if your camera is off. We will definitely allow the opportunity for our participants to make input after each and every speaker. I was looking for a question and answer box. We don't have one in the meeting platform, so you're more than welcome to pose your questions in the chat box, or we'll also afford you the opportunity to do so once our speakers are done speaking. And then again, I did request that you can introduce yourselves in the chat box. You can share your business information. All feedback is welcome. And any helpful information, please share it in the chat box. This is going to be an hour session long, but we do go a bit over depending on how the conversation goes. But not least, please have fun learning and connecting with each other. And just moving right into it. So, I mean, today is all about resilience. And I would like to pose a question to all of us. What is resilience for you? And what does resilience look like for you? Whether it's in business, whether it's an individual. And I invite you to please give us the answers in the chat box. You can spend some time just really contemplating what resilience is. And if I had to start this session with a mindfulness practice, I would ask you right now to just close your eyes and visualize resilience and see what it looks like. And just connect with it. And if you want to journal and just write down what comes up for you, you may do so, or you can put it in the chat. And I'm highlighting visualization as a tool for mindfulness, and I'm also highlighting journaling. So writing down your thoughts as another practice of mindfulness, where you really put your thoughts on paper so that you're actually able to engage with them. So I'm going to give you some time just to hear from everyone, what is resilience for you and what does it look like? Before I go to the actual definition, Trish, can you just keep a lookout on the chat box for us for any answers? We'll continue to look at them as we move along. And I just went around. I'm saying, can you please just check the chat box just to check out any answers that do come along for us? And I spent some time just to see what the world says and what the internet says about resilience. So there's one definition here about the ability to recover from or adjust easily to misfortune or change. So that's the Merriam-Webster dictionary. And then there's another one here, and it says it's a noun, the process of adapting well in the face of adversity, trauma, tragedy, threats, or significant sources of stress. It means bouncing back from difficult experience. I was sharing earlier on about another masterclass I attended on authentic resilience, and it was a platform for NGOs, and they were basically dispelling all the myths around resilience. And what I found very profound, they were saying that it's actually not about bouncing back. So if you were to try and imagine, do you want to bounce back to where you were before COVID-19, or would you rather grow forward? I really like the notion of growing forward rather than bouncing back. And then another one, which is quite relevant as well, was around the capacity to prepare for disruptions, recover from shock and stresses, and adapt and grow from a disruptive experience. And lastly, something very simple, the ability to become strong, healthy, or successful again after something bad happens. So without wasting any time, I'm going to stop the share and introduce our speakers. We've got Theo, who is an executive business coach, and I'm going to allow him to actually introduce himself and tell us a bit more about what he does. And he's got a presentation for us for businesses, especially during this time where we are all looking for ways to be resilient. Thank you very much, Theo. Over to you.
Thank you very much, SIPHOKAZI. And I want to take this opportunity to say a big thank you to Trish and SIPHOKAZI for inviting me to be a part of this forum this afternoon. I am a business coach. I specialize in working with small business owners, and I basically help them to grow their businesses within 6 to 12 months using a 5-step system, which I will be speaking a little bit about this afternoon as well, because I believe it is a process that can be applied in any circumstances, in any conditions. And if you apply it with the right mindset, then I believe it will not only make you more resilient, but it will also help you to thrive regardless of the circumstances or conditions that you find yourself in, both as an individual, as well as a business owner, and even for your entire business, for that matter. I was an academic, and I've been in the university space for about 20 years. And then from there, I moved into coaching, which I've been doing now for the last 3 years. And I find it quite rewarding because I enjoy working with business owners and helping them through the process of starting their businesses and helping them to grow their business over time, and then seeing them succeed with what it is that they want to achieve, with their goals, their vision, trying to be successful with their business ventures. Because I strongly believe that the small business owner and business owners in general are the people, the entrepreneurs. These are the people that are there specifically for the reason of leading us as society through circumstances as we have experienced. And if we'll see throughout history, there have been a lot of very difficult times that societies have had to go through. And it is at these times when people are looking towards leaders that will step up and provide leadership. And yeah, I'm not talking about the politicians. We are talking about people at grassroots level who know what it takes to be resilient because of what they themselves have gone through as individuals, but who are also able to lead by example and through their own actions, taking us from a situation of crisis through to a situation of stability and peace because of their innate leadership potential and their ability to take action where necessary. And I believe that all of us here on this forum are such capable leaders because we've all started businesses. We are all running businesses currently. We, I think, prior to COVID-19 have faced various challenges and obstacles in our respective businesses, but we have demonstrated an ability to lead ourselves and those who are part of our businesses lead them through those difficult circumstances to a better place. And I believe that this current circumstance that we find ourselves in will be no different if we have people like yourselves willing to step up, take the lead, be proactive, and take us forward from where we are now to where we would like to be. Thank you very much once again for the opportunity. Once again, over to you, SIPHOKAZI.
Thank you very much, Theo. Thank you so much. And I'm just going to allow a quick opportunity to our participants. If there's any input so far, you are more than welcome to unmute your mic, or you can also just make input in the chat box. We've really changed this platform to make it a meeting so that we can all have a conversation and it's not just us talking to you. Any input in this point in time? Okay, there is one from Garabo. I can see, I appreciate that Theo mentioned stability because that is something that is lacking in our private sector, public sector, and communities. And then Theo, are you going to be sharing your presentation with us?
Yes, yes, certainly.
We can go right into that, and then I'm sure we'll get more input.
I'm just double checking that everybody can see the presentation.
Yes, I can see it. Thank you so much, Theo. That's great. Awesome.
Super,
thank you.
Super. All right. So once again, thank you very much for the opportunity. I really enjoy participating in forums like this because it's I think for me personally, it's one of the upsides of the COVID-19 pandemic. That has allowed far more opportunities like this for me to speak to other business owners and to actually reach more people than I probably would have been able to do using the old-fashioned speaking on stages thing. Although that is a lot of fun, I actually enjoy being able to reach a lot more people by getting onto webinars and masterclasses like this. So in line with the prevailing theme of this afternoon, which is resilience, I decided to create a short talk around what I consider to be the 5 keys to thrive both during and post-lockdown for business owners. And the first thing that I would like to start off with is wherever you are, if you are on this forum, wherever you are, I would like you to repeat after me the following. It's been tough. It's been rough. But I am still here.
But I am still here.
Let's do that again. It's been tough.
It's been tough.
It's been rough.
It's been rough.
But I am still here.
But I am still here.
Right, now give yourself a hearty round of applause. Because I think that there's no one on this forum today who can say that the last few months has been a walk in the park. Because I think for many of us, most of us, if not all of us, we have really been through the grinder. If you're a business owner, if you're an individual, you know, even if you are an employer or an employee, the last few months have been really rough and really tough. But because you are here today, it has demonstrated that you do have what we are talking about this afternoon, the resilience to keep going and to keep looking for opportunities to grow and to become better than you have been before. So in this talk, I'm going to be talking about the 5 keys, and I'm hoping that we have shut off all of the distractions, that the cell phone is on mute, that there's no distractions, because I'm pretty sure that you will be getting a lot of value out of the few minutes that I will be speaking to you this afternoon. And what you will gain from this short talk will be three things. The first is you will uncover what I consider to be the three hidden challenges that will derail the results that you are looking for, and that most definitely will hold you back from emerging from this crisis, this pandemic, stronger and better than you were before. The second thing is you will learn the 5 keys to overcome these 3 hidden challenges that will then allow you not only to achieve the results that you're looking for in your business, but that will also help you to continue to thrive even after the lockdown period has passed. And then number 3 is to give you the motivation and inspiration to take the necessary action so that you can become stronger, better, and even more resilient than you currently are. So COVID-19 has no doubt had a significant effect on businesses, not only here in South Africa, but also globally. I think many of us have been watching the news, seeing in the media, the very negative effects of COVID-19. There have been closures of businesses. There have been mass layoffs where people have been forced to lay off their staff. There are many business owners and employees that have experienced significant loss of income. So, and all of this, of course, has had further negative impacts on relationships, on individuals, on businesses and companies, on organizations. So COVID-19 has not been a walk in the park. But these are, for me, external challenges that will pass. And how do I know this? Because throughout history, there have been periods of crisis, not exactly like COVID-19, but very similar. And we've made it through them. Globally and locally, we've made it through these past challenges, and we have emerged stronger and better than we were before. So I have no doubt that these external challenges that have been the result of COVID-19 will eventually pass. But there are 3 hidden challenges that I think that are far more insidious and that will cause far more damage than any pandemic or virus. And these 3 hidden challenges are: number 1, fear; number 2, demotivation; and number 3, negativity. I've tried by all means since the COVID-19 pandemic started to avoid exposing myself to the news media, because I believe that the news media has been one of the biggest purveyors of fear, demotivation, and negativity. I've been able to participate in many other forums as well, where I've been speaking to people, not only business owners, but also, people from a wide range of sectors. And just listening to the pervasiveness of fear, demotivation, and negativity has made me think about how difficult it is, and not only difficult, but also how easy it is for people to fall into the trap of fear, demotivation, and negativity. And I think, as I said, that the media has been one of the key factors in driving this fear-mongering, which leads to demotivation, which leads to negativity. And that is why I am on this forum today, because I'm hoping to use this as an opportunity for me to get people out of the fear, demotivation, and negativity that a lot of us have found ourselves trapped in. Because the problem with these 3 hidden challenges is that, first of all, you can fall into these 3 traps without really even realizing it. But the more dangerous thing is that once you are trapped in fear, once you're trapped in demotivation, once you're trapped in negativity, it can be very, very difficult to get out of it. But by having the awareness of realizing, no, I am actually now in a situation where I am completely hamstrung by my fear of losing my business, fear of having to lay off my staff, fear of the loss of income, fear of taking the necessary action that I know I need to take. But because of this paralyzing fear, I am unable to take that necessary action. I realize that I'm in a space where I feel very demotivated. There is nothing that is really motivating me to want to get up in the morning and to do what I need to do to move myself or my business forward. Yes, I realize I'm trapped in this negativity where I don't really see anything positive coming out of this current situation. When you realize, when you have the awareness that you are trapped in one of these three hidden challenges, that does give you the opportunity to be able to do something about it. The problem is that many business owners out there are trapped in one or all of these hidden challenges without realizing it. And as a consequence, they don't know that there is a way out of this difficult spot that they might find themselves in. And that's why I'm here today, to give you 5 keys that I believe not only will help you to overcome these 3 hidden challenges, but that will also help you to continue to thrive even once the COVID-19 pandemic has passed. The first key that I would like you to think about is to clarify your vision and direction. Now, I don't believe that there's anybody on this platform, and for that matter, any business owner out there in the wider world, that got into business without having a vision and direction. There was a reason, or there were reasons why you decided to go into business for yourself. If there wasn't, then you would probably be an employee working for an employer somewhere. But at some point, you made the decision to say that I don't want to work for anybody. I want to work for myself. And to be able to do that, I need to start my own business. So one thing I think that can be a key to help us to overcome the challenges of the COVID-19 situation is to go back and reassess the reasons why we got into business in the first place. Remember why you started your business. And what is important, what is significant about this is that the reason or the reasons why you started in the first place must be bigger than anything else. They must be bigger than the COVID-19 pandemic. Those reasons must be bigger than the loss of income that you may have suffered. Those reasons must be bigger than the staff that you may have been forced to lay off. Those reasons must be bigger than the fact that you maybe had to close your business, or that you might be staring down the barrel of having to close your business. Why? Because regardless of what the negative consequences are that you've had to experience as a business owner, if your reasons why you started are big enough, those reasons will be enough to move you forward and to do what you need to do in order to either restart your business or to reevaluate your business model or to rethink how you did your business so that you can adapt to the new normal of COVID-19. So you need to ask yourself, are the reasons why you started still clear enough in your own mind? And are those reasons still big enough? Because if they aren't, that's where you are likely to find yourself trapped by fear, by demotivation, and by negativity. Alternatively, if your reasons are big enough, you will find a way to overcome your fear, your demotivation, and your negativity. Key number 2, I see the COVID-19 pandemic as a great opportunity for me to upgrade my skills. And this is what every single business owner out there should be thinking about as well. Because what this pandemic has done is that it has forced us to look at where are our shortcomings as business owners in terms of our knowledge or our skills. So the question that you need to ask yourself is, what skills or knowledge do you need to adapt yourself and your business to the COVID-19 and post-COVID-19 world? Now notice I say to adapt yourself and your business. Because a lot of the times as business owners, once we get going in our businesses, we tend to think that, well, there isn't really anything more that I need to learn or that I need to acquire in order to help me to become a better business owner. But I think part and parcel of being an entrepreneur and a business owner is that you need to have a mindset of constantly seeking ways to improve yourself. Whether it is improving yourself in terms of mindset, or improving yourself in terms of skill set, or improving yourself in terms of knowledge of your industry, but there is always a need to improve yourself. Because in business, we have this thing that we call your unique selling proposition. And sometimes your unique selling proposition is not always about the operational side of your business, but sometimes it can just be about getting an edge by acquiring or learning a new skill, a new ability, or some form of new knowledge that can keep you at the cutting edge of your industry. So you need to reassess the relevance of your skills and knowledge. And I'm sure that for many business owners, if you take the time to do this reassessment of your current skills and knowledge and whether they are still relevant for the current circumstances, then you will probably find that they no longer are. Because what probably used to be a relevant skill before COVID-19 hit may very quickly have become irrelevant. So it is now a time for you to develop yourself, to find out what are the skills that you would need in order to help you to adapt yourself and your business for the COVID and post-COVID world, because those are the skills that are going to make the difference between the business that thrives and survives as opposed to the business that will die as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. And then you need to ask yourself, okay, how will you go about acquiring these skills? And I think one of the advantages of the COVID-19 world is that there's been a proliferation of self-development, personal growth, and training opportunities for business owners, where you can literally take your pick of what kind of personal growth or personal development training you want to do that you feel will help you to develop yourself and ultimately your business as a way of adapting to the COVID-19 situation. The third key is to optimize your environment for productivity. Now, one of the challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic has been that a lot of us as business owners have been forced to change our environments for us to be able to continue to do our work. Because of things like social distancing and the lockdown restrictions, a lot of us were forced out of our offices and we had to move to the home environment in order for us to be able to continue our work. Now, for some people, that might have been a very easy shift to make, but for others, it may have been a little bit more challenging. So you need to ask yourself, how has your work environment changed? And as we've gone through the reduction in the lockdown levels, I think we are now at a stage at level 2 where most of us have now been able to move back to our office spaces. But I think part of the learning process for this has been to think about how we need to adapt ourselves and how we do things depending on the environments that we find ourselves in. And for me, the environment is not just the physical environment. There are really 3 dimensions to environment: the physical environment, the social environment, and the mental environment. So the physical environment is quite obvious. It's the actual physical location or space where you spend most of your work time. But there's also the social environment, which has to do with your social relationships, the people that you have as part of your environment. So are those people who encourage you, who support you, who believe in your vision, who are willing to encourage and motivate and inspire you to continue on your path as an entrepreneur or business owner? Or are there people who do the opposite? Do they discourage you? Do they demotivate you? Do they break you down? Are they unsupportive of what you're trying to do? So you need to ask yourself, are the people who are in your people environment, in your social environment, are they conducive to you being productive as a business owner? And then your mental environment, that has to do, I'll be talking a little bit more about this in a couple of minutes time, but your mental environment is, what are the kinds of ideas that you choose to populate your mind with as a business owner? The 3 hidden challenges that I've spoken about before, of demotivation, negativity. These things are the kinds of things that can populate your mental environment with completely the wrong things. So when you find yourself faced with anxiety, when you find yourself faced with limiting beliefs, with self-doubt, these things all form part of your mental environment. So you need to ask yourself the question, is your mental environment good enough for you to be able to be productive? And the best way that one can have an impact on your environment, whether it's the physical, the social, or the mental, is to ask yourself, what can you either add or remove to your environments to increase your productivity? Because you are looking to add things into your environment that are going to help you to be more productive. In other words, things that will remove the friction between doing what you know you need to do as opposed to doing what you should not be doing. So either adding things in that are going to make you more productive, or taking things out of your environment that are going to be harmful and that are going to have a negative impact on your productivity. The fourth key is to become more strategic in your actions. Now, I like this one because this has to do with the question of how effective and how efficient are your activities as a business owner. A lot of the time, we become so used to doing things in a certain way that we fall into what I call the hamster wheel mentality, where like the little hamster in the hamster wheel, we are so busy with all kinds of things, but we are actually not going anywhere. And it's very easy to fall into that trap of becoming so busy with mundane little things that don't really have much impact on your progress that you start believing that you actually are doing a lot of work when the work that you are doing is not really moving you forward, or it is not really helping you to progress. So we need to take this current situation as an opportunity to rethink our actions and activities and become a little bit more strategic about what we are doing. And you need to do that by asking yourself, is what I'm doing efficient? Am I investing my time, my energy, my resources efficiently in the kinds of activities that I'm doing every day? Is what I am doing effective? Am I doing things that actually make a positive difference to me achieving my goals, achieving my vision, keeping me moving in the right direction? And when you answer that particular question, you need to identify what are the right things that I need to be doing as opposed to the wrong things. Because doing the right things consistently is the best way to invest your actions strategically, effectively, and efficiently. And when you do the right things, or when you try to identify what those right things are, you need to ask yourself, what are the right things for you as an individual in your specific business for you to do? Because the things that are the right things for me to do are not necessarily going to be the same things that are the right things for you to do. So as an individual, you need to work out for yourself what are going to be those right things that you need to do consistently to be able to start seeing progress and to build momentum to be able to move in the right direction. Because the name of the game, I think, for a lot of business owners under the current circumstances is momentum. And sometimes we make the mistake of thinking that for me to actually see any meaningful progress, I need to do actions or activities that are going to produce big results. But sometimes it's the little things that we do consistently. As long as they're the right things that we are doing, sometimes it's the little things that help us to generate the most momentum. So use this as an opportunity to go back to the drawing board and go back to basics and see, okay, what are the little things that I can start doing that are going to help me to start building momentum so that I can move in the right direction. And as you start doing the little things, those little things will start to add up and they'll become bigger things. And those big activities will become even bigger. And before you know it, you will be making huge strides in terms of your momentum by simply starting to do the little things that are the right things. And the final key number 5, is to overcome your mind and emotions. And for me, this is the most important key, because this speaks to what I consider to be the inner game. A lot of us are focusing so much on the external. We are focusing on operational issues in our businesses. We are focusing on HR-related issues. These things are all external. As I said right at the beginning, these external things, these external challenges that we are dealing with at the moment, these things will pass. But the one thing that is going to be consistent over time, regardless of the external situation, is going to be what is happening on the inside, in your own mind and in your own emotions. So when I talk about inner game, I'm talking about your level of self-motivation, your level of positivity, your mental discipline to be able to do what I spoke about a few minutes ago, to be able to do the right things consistently. And it is here where I'm reminded of the late Jim Rohn, who said, "Don't wish that things were easier, wish that you were better." And how do you become better? By working on the inner game, by working on ways to improve your self-motivation, by working on ways to improve your positivity, by working on things that are going to help you to build your mental resilience and mental discipline. Don't expect your environment to adapt to you. You must adapt to your environment. Whatever is happening externally, all of that is part of the external environment. And if you're going to expect your environment, your external circumstances to adapt to you, unfortunately, you are going to always be struggling, because the environment doesn't care about any one of us. We are just specks in this vast environment, this vast universe that we are a part of. So the environment, the universe doesn't care about you as an individual, and it will never bend itself to adapt to what you want it to be. As individuals, as human beings, we all have been given the ability to be able to make certain decisions for ourselves of how best we are going to deal with external circumstances. So we all have the ability within ourselves to adapt. The question is, are you willing to adapt? So don't expect the environment to adapt itself to what you would like it to be. Rather, learn to adapt yourself to your environment. And I believe that this is one of the reasons why a lot of business owners find themselves in difficult circumstances, because they have not been able to adapt themselves. A lot of them are probably sitting wishing that circumstances would change, that the environment would change, and to them, that is preferable to working on themselves, to working on their own inner game, to working on their own levels of self-motivation, their own positivity, improving themselves as a way of adapting to their environments. So what can you do today to build mental resilience and to strengthen your own inner game? And there are a few things that I've learned to do for myself. This is what forms part of my daily mental disciplines that I do every single day, which has helped me to deal with my own anxieties, fears, demotivation, as I have tried to navigate myself through this COVID-19 pandemic. The first is meditation. Taking some time out to just sit down and reflect on where I am, where I'm coming from, and where I would like to be. And doing that daily visualization, meditating, thinking and reflecting on my goals, on what I would like to achieve. The second thing is gratitude. Being grateful for what I've been able to achieve thus far, being grateful for the many, many opportunities that have presented themselves even under these dark conditions of a COVID-19 pandemic. Being grateful for what's working for me, being grateful for what I've been able to achieve thus far. So gratitude is a very important mental discipline to practice, especially when you are facing circumstances that are difficult, that are challenging, that are inherently negative. listening to motivational messages every morning. Les Brown said that a lot of scientific research has been done on the fact that whatever you expose yourself to first thing in the morning, that will have an impact on you subconsciously and is likely to have an impact on your mind throughout the rest of the day. Why? Because when we wake up in the morning, our minds are operating at 10.5 wave cycles per second, which means that that is when your mind is most like a sponge that just absorbs everything and anything that it is exposed to. But unfortunately, many of us are in the very bad habit of, as soon as we wake up, the first thing we do is we switch on e-news and to get our morning fix of what is the latest that's happening in the news. And unfortunately, a lot of the news that we find ourselves being exposed to these days is just pure and simple negativity. So if that's the first thing that you expose yourself to in the morning, it is going to have a detrimental effect on your levels of positivity throughout the day. Because that negativity is being absorbed by your mind, it is penetrating into your subconscious, and that is what is going to set the tone for the rest of your day. So make a conscious decision to say that from now on, I am not going to watch the news first thing in the morning. I will much rather listen to motivational messages or watch motivational videos or expose myself to something positive, which can then have a much better impact on me psychologically and during the course of the day. So these can all become part of what I would call your mental disciplines. And I call them disciplines because these are the kinds of things that you need to be doing every single day consistently if you want to change your mindset from demotivated to motivated, from negativity to positivity. So to conclude, Tony Robbins says that the greatest power you have is the power to make a decision. So what I've tried to do in this short talk this afternoon is to make you aware of the fact that you have the power to choose. You have the power to choose your attitude. You have the power to choose your mindset. You have the power to choose your response to whatever the external conditions and circumstances are that you have to deal with. So it's about choosing in terms of whether you focus on the internal versus the external. And as I said earlier, we have very little control over what happens to us externally. But what we do have control over is our own inner game, our own internal responses to these external happenings and circumstances that we find ourselves in. So what I've tried to do this afternoon is to give you the 5 keys that I believe will not only take you through this difficult challenge of the pandemic, but that will also help you to thrive even post the pandemic as we find ways to adapt to the new normal. But you will decide what these 5 keys will unlock for you or how you will use them. So if you have been held back by negativity, if you have been held back by demotivation, and if you have been held back by fear, I would like to leave this message with all of you this afternoon. Don't worry about the fear. You can handle it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Theo. It was even hard for me to say, okay, you're running beyond your time because everything you're saying is very, very interesting. And just a quick input from my side, and my intention is to also open up to our participants, but I will also introduce our next speaker, who is all about innovation, which is very relevant to this conversation, around new skills. I mean, there's a whole notion now around 21st century skills, and that includes creativity. It includes flexibility, networking, becoming digital citizens. So, I mean, it's all linked to the stuff that you've mentioned. And I think with your last slide, well, the very last, the key number 5 around the inner game, your practice of meditation, visualization, gratitude, those are all mindfulness tools. And I mean, this is really one of the things that we've been wanting to bring in for our participants to also start engaging in such mindfulness tools. Without wasting any time, I promise I will allow time for our participants to make input. Brett, we've got Brett here with us, Brett Field, who is called a serial entrepreneur, and I think you'll unpack that for us. But I think what fascinates me the most is your title of Chief Innovation Officer. I love all things innovative. So Brett, over to you. And this is going to be more of a conversation, but doesn't have a presentation. So whoever wants to open up their camera to engage, please do. Thank you, Brett. Over to you.
Thank you so much for having me. And Theodore, thanks so much for your presentation. I thought it was absolutely brilliant and some really, really great tips there. Yeah, I'm Brett Field. I'm an entrepreneur and investor. I am involved in everything from financial services, commercial property, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, agriculture, solar, media production, marketing platforms, and I also own and run a marketing and advertising company. I will put my details into the chat, and you guys are all welcome to contact me. So please, this is interactive. Feel free to either put questions into the chat, or you're welcome to interrupt me at any stage. I'm going to be talking innovation, and just coming off of what Theo was talking about, and this reoccurring theme of mindfulness. And I just think it's amazing that finally mindfulness is being taken seriously in the business world. For a very long time, it's been seen as esoteric or some hippie nonsense. And what we found out is that mindfulness is absolutely critical, and the leaders that take it seriously and embed it into their businesses are seeing the rewards, especially in times like this, where their businesses and their staff are all under pressure at the same time, as well as the country and the globe, where there's not really space to find relief. Those companies that have taken this seriously and have that were the innovators when 10 years ago people were talking about this and rubbishing it. So that gets me on to the first point of innovation, is that innovation is a mindset. And too often people think of innovation as technology advancement. And whilst in today's day and age, technology certainly is at the forefront of innovation, it doesn't equal innovation. You can have low-tech solutions that are innovative to modern problems. It's also not invention. You don't have to be coming up with something that's brand new or never been seen before for it to be an innovation. It's more about the opportunity identification and then applying unique thought to coming up with the solution. And as Chief Innovation Officer at Fed Group, I created a policy there which debunked the idea. It's an old business saying, don't bring me problems, bring me solutions. And we re-engineered that to be, bring me problems, not solutions. And it's something I employ you to do in your businesses. Ask for people to show you where the problems are, whether that's your staff, your consumers, your suppliers, because if you create an environment where somebody who sees a problem has to also identify the solution before they can bring it to you, all you're going to do is bury the problems. And if you flip it around, because the person who's best suited to identify a problem is almost certainly not the best person suited to solving that problem. So I would absolutely look to flip that around. And then we found ourselves in the second once in a lifetime crisis in a lifetime. So these crises are probably going to happen more often. So we have to be more adaptable. And even if it's not being adaptable to crises, the rate of innovation and the rate of progression as a society and as a species, just to keep up, crisis or no, you need to be able to have an always on innovation mindset just to keep up. So at this point, I want to find out if there are any questions. If not, I'll just keep talking. Are there any questions? No? Cool. So I think something that people get wrong with innovation as well is they look at it in terms of growth and scale. And what happens is there's this focus on scaling my business or growing my business really fast. And you know, the tech advancement that's happened over the last decade or so has really pushed us into that mindset, as well as the likes of the Silicon Valley, where everybody went from talking millions to billions and everybody wanted a unicorn company. And what we've seen is that a lot of those sorts of companies, or those companies that have adopted that type of innovation approach, when this type of thing happens, they're often ill-suited to deal with it. And the companies that have been innovative in the way that they approach their product and their consumers and their businesses, that have also been patient and built slowly and built on good basic business fundamentals, the ones that built cash reserves rather than deploying all of their cash and overextending just to try and keep up, and those are the ones now that didn't have the reserves to make it through. They, you know, we 3 to 5 months, depending on where you're counting from, into this. Most businesses should have been able to bunker down and use their reserves and get through, and use this time to really have a look at every single aspect of their business, refine their processes. You know, it could have been seen as a time to workshop your business to be its most efficient form and its most innovative form, if you had built your business with those basic long-standing fundamentals. Is there a question here? I would like to, in the space of advertising, what are the skills that are required from me? Okay, I didn't quite understand the question. Maybe you can clarify for me, but in terms of the advertising space right now, there's lots of room for innovation because largely people are scared to make bold decisions. And this is where, if you're the business leader, you need to create psychological safety for your employees, for them, one, to make mistakes, two, try new things. Otherwise, you will kill innovation before it even starts, and it will never come up again. So we've been working with some companies that are brave and that are looking at it very innovatively, and things like TikTok. I mean, I cannot believe how many companies are not even looking at the fastest growing platform in the world. We've got clients coming back now and saying, well, you know, look, the US, they're looking at banning it. Great. That means the US market, we don't have to deal with them. That means there's less traffic that we have to filter through. It's South Africa. We are South African, and we don't need the US market necessarily outside of certain businesses in order to use these platforms. So again, it's about looking at that news, and everybody sees the negativity in it, and actually looking at it another way and identifying the opportunity there, going, okay, great, that's something like 40% of the platform is now not going to be there. So I've got 40% better chance of increasing my share of voice. Things like influencer marketing, huge amount of space and innovation there. And things like, how are you going to innovate the way you use your marketing budget? Lots of people have stuck to traditional spends, and they're looking at immediate ROIs, and because they're focusing on this immediate ROI, they suffer the fact that they kill off their community because they keep asking for their community to give them something rather than nurturing their community, which is this is a great time to take a completely different approach and go, I'm just going to look after my community right now. I'm not going to ask anything of them, and then see how it turns around when your community now comes and supports you, knowing that they've got somebody that they've built up trust with over this sort of time when anxiety is so high. Is this another question?
I think that's a comment from James, who's sharing his idea of a solution. And then there is something from SASHA. Hybrid, like TikTok and Innovators marketing, I imagine, are really for products in what can service-related business use, innovation, and examples. SASHA, would you like to elaborate on that?
Yeah, sorry, I'm terrible at writing fast. Hybrid. Look, I'm listening to what you're saying, and I'm obviously comparing it to PBF itself and what we've done with innovation as an example, because we are a very well-established program. I found difficulty internally for people to take on innovation. And even though we implemented the innovation, no one really used it until the lockdown. So there was a great positive outcome of that because they were forced into using it and then they realized they liked it. We started using various innovative software like Zoom, which seems so easy, but actually becomes really complex when you have to do more technical things. And we realizing that we have gaps that we don't know that existed. You know, so you want to understand where there are problems, but we don't even realize they're problems until they're happening. How can we avoid that? And then my specific question was, like, you spoke about TikTok or using influencers. I imagine that's really for products. A lot of the PBF businesses or services or consulting firms, how could they use innovation in a way that, and give possible examples?
Okay, great. So in terms of the gaps, when these gaps arise, that's when you know that you've found the problem. So I'm saying encourage people to find these gaps. You can't avoid them. You just need to be able to respond quickly in order to fill them. So I would be encouraging anybody to identify these gaps and let them happen, but just be quick to solve. And in terms of, let's keep TikTok as the example, it's not just for product. In fact, I think it's better suited to services. There needs to be a complete shift in mindset because we're all becoming our own media house. I'm the editor-in-chief of Brett Field. I'm also the editor-in-chief of multiple businesses. And this is going to become more and more the case. And some of the biggest platforms like
Please, can you mute your mic? Sorry about that. Can you please mute your mic?
Some of the biggest successes on platforms like TikTok are service providers. And the reason is because they've given their communities and they've built the communities around value. They've consistently given value, which people have for too long seen that as, oh, I'm giving my expertise away for free. And what it actually is it's saying, I'm proving to people that they can trust me, that I do have these skills. Nobody trusts the fact that you might have certain qualifications. That doesn't necessarily make you great at your service. And we've seen that those people have built a community that trusts them, and they've leveraged that trust into providing those services in the real world and in the business environment.
Okay. Can you please mute your mic? Whoever's got a mic that's not muted, unless you want to ask a question. There we go. Thank you.
Brett, I just did, while we're waiting with that, could you give other examples other than TikTok of innovation, or rather other technologies that are out there that businesses could maybe tap into?
Sure. It really depends on your business, which technologies you want to be leveraging. But AI, there's a huge amount of application for that, and there's SaaS services around that. So we've seen the IBM Watson being used in the legal fraternity, has now come into the advertising, and recently into influencer marketing, which helps match audience sentiment to brands, things like that. And even platforms, one that I've recently invested into called Continuon, where we're actually helping brands identify who their true fans are within existing audiences, down to exactly what individual sort of products that these people are looking for. But if you look at it, it really depends on your business. So even things like we've seen people in the medical field and with the wellness field using platforms like Zoom, who had never done their businesses online. It had always been a face-to-face. So this type of environment has actually just forced people to try technologies that were around before. We didn't need COVID-19 to happen for somebody who was a coach or a psychologist to be helping people via a digital channel. It's just when it became the only way, all of a sudden this happened. But it didn't mean that somebody couldn't have been trying this five years ago. And I think what we're going to see now is that all of a sudden people are going to see the value in trying things, because people all had to take this immediate leap just to survive. And more of them than not realized it actually worked and it paid off.
Yeah, I think that's very important. And also speaking to what Theodore mentioned about don't be afraid. And I can speak for the PBA. We've made mistakes, and sometimes we've made royal blunders where our stakeholders have seen them. But actually, because the market is how it is, it's created a great opportunity of forgiveness. People are like, oh, well, they're learning, they're getting better. As long as you get better.
Absolutely. Humility, for me, is by far the best leadership skill. If you can show humility to your employees, to your co-workers, to your community, it's always well received.
Theo and Brett, can I ask you something? How are we going to avoid, as business owners, falling back into what we know, rather than where we are now? Because I think that our comfort zone still tends to take us back to where we were. And what advice would you say to us in moving forward with where we are, rather than going back if it's working for us?
Well, I don't think, for a lot of people, the reality is it's not avoidable. It's going to happen. But I think what people need to be mindful of, what they've got out of this crisis. What are the positive things that they've got? What happened when they tried new things? The worst case scenario that they thought was going to happen, and how it really didn't happen. And I think the people that have built habits around this new type of thinking will be able to continue it, and they will be the ones who benefit in the long run.
And should we not be a little bit more mindful as just community and South Africans to support the new businesses that have formed on online platforms and in the new world, to keep them going? Because there's so much positivity, but it's so easy to now neglect them at the expense of going back to brick and mortar.
And I think that's where groups like this, networking groups, when, you know, it's very easy to feel positive when we're sitting in the group and we're all working together, and everybody's going to ebb and flow. And when you bring a community together like you guys are doing here, it's so valuable, because when somebody, and again, this is where humility counts, when you say, look, you know, this is what, it's not working for me anymore, this and that, and you bring it to this type of community, there's going to be enough people that are sitting at a high when you're at a low, and they will remind you of what was being discussed here. They will remind you of what you can do, and they'll help bring up the whole community.
And anything from your side, Theo, in response to Trish's question?
Yes. I think what I will just add is that I think a lot of it also comes down to doing things that are going to be sustainable in the long run. I think Brett is quite right that we do have platforms like this that are very, very, very good and helpful. But at the end of the day, you know, the forum will end, and then we will each, as individuals, go back to our own little corners, and then what happens then? So I think what is going to be key also is that individuals need to learn to develop new habits that are going to be sustainable in the long term, so that you can actually become your own self-motivator, that you become less dependent on forums like this, in order to help you to sustain your level of self-motivation. And I think also to come in with the earlier question, you know, one of the things that I've realized in this pandemic situation is that change is going to happen whether we like it or not. So the question of whether you decide to embrace the change and to make the adjustments and to adapt versus not doing it and rather sticking to the old way of doing things, you know, unfortunately, the decision is going to be made for you, whether you like it or not. And those businesses that are going to make it are the ones that are going to be the ones that respond the fastest to these changes. So we have the choice. You can decide to say, well, I'll stick with what's worked for me in the past, regardless of what's going on. But eventually you will get to the point where you will figure out that what may have worked in the past is not necessarily working anymore. And you will be forced into making the changes and the adjustments. And I think this is also where strategic planning comes into the equation, because I think very few of us as business owners actually take strategic planning seriously. But the thing about strategic planning is that is exactly the kind of thing, the kind of practice that helps us to deal with circumstances like this. Now, we might not be able to, you know, completely 100% predict what kinds of global events or challenges are going to happen, but it does at least help us to think about things, you know, forward planning about how we can, what we might need to do to be able to adapt or pivot, as is the new nomenclature that we hear these days, our businesses in response to those changes. And that has to start from a mindset of realizing that what we might be doing now may not be useful for us down the line. And then being able to realize that we need to make changes and adjustments. But the mindset first needs to be that, you know, we can't just stay in our comfort zones and expect things to just to continue to do things as we have become used to doing them. But that we need to change our mindset to, you know, we need to be adaptable, we need to be flexible, and make those changes as or when they become necessary to make.
Thank you so much, Theo. Thank you so much, Brett. Thank you very much for your presentations, for your input. And I'd also like to take some time to open up to our participants, those who are still with us, if there's any input you'd like to make before I hand over to SASHA for our closing part. Anyone? I see Pride is, yes, there we go. Hello, Pride.
Hi, how are you?
Fine, thanks, and you?
I'm good. I've got a question for Brett, and I want to find out because I've already, typed it on our chat, but I see he didn't pick it up. But it's fine. I just wanted him to elaborate more on influencer marketing, because I've decided now during lockdown to go into the textile industry, and I was advised that to start off, in order to go maybe, let's say, full scale, because I'm like on a minimal scale, I need to generate some sales. So I've been in the business for 2 months. I've set up an online store, and I must say it's tough. I'm currently struggling because I have not generated anything. And I have been advised that it's better for me to look into influencer marketing. So hence, I wanted you to elaborate more on that.
Cool. Okay, so there's a misconception sometimes with influencer marketing, and the focus of influencer marketing is to build trust and to build community. If you want to do it successfully, you can try and go for short-term sales, and lots of people do, and it's why most of the influencer campaigns that you see fail, because they're built on a strategy to get sales immediately rather than to build community over time. If you're looking to make sales, then I would be looking at social commerce. And that would be selling directly through the social media platforms as opposed to influencer marketing. If budget allows, I would definitely do both, but remembering that the influencer is there to build community over time. Beware of short-term social media influencer marketing campaigns. These shouldn't be 1, 2, 3 little posts blipping up here and there. You want to build a relationship with this influencer. You want ideally to be running 6 month to 1 year campaigns with them to help you build the community. But if what you're looking for is sales, then you would be better off putting your budget behind social commerce.
Thank you for that, Brett. Any other questions? Any other input while we still have everyone online?
I would just like to thank both of you, Brett and THEO, for such inspiring information, sharing with us. I think we've all really learned a lot today and shared a lot, and we really, really appreciate you coming on board us. It's been awesome. So thank you so much. And then, Sasha, we're going to hear from you, are we?
Yes. I was supposed to do the intro, but I had a glitch, so I'll do the extra. Thank you, guys. I mean, Theodore, it was great listening to your story. It's so much of what we're really trying to do and assist businesses, and we are going to be sure to send this video to all our PBF subscribers, because I think it's something around business resilience that many, if they've missed it here today, they should really watch your presentation, because it really gives insight about understanding, you know, for me, not to jump around too much, but for me, like one of your key points that I said I love in the speech was that sometimes you feel like you're doing so much, but you're not getting anywhere. And just understanding your focus, that make sure you're doing the things that will actually give you progress. Because you might think that it's super important, you post on social media this thing now by a certain time, but really, what is the impact? And does it matter if it's a few hours later, or what is the best time to do it? And the stress that it causes for you internally then affects you. And if you have teams or even in your home life, it affects everything around, and it has this ricochet effect in your life. So I really enjoyed today, Brett, talking about innovation. I mean, I spent the first 2 hours of this morning with the team just discussing our innovation paths and how we're changing things and the gaps and your insights into don't be afraid to fail, to fail and to test. I wish my full team was on this call to watch it too, because I think there is that general fear around it. What I wanted to introduce today was something I actually watched. So I'm stealing it a little bit, but I think it's so genuinely important. And Theo, you touched on it a little bit, is setting the tone for your day. All of us, if we wake up in the morning and there's still a whole lot of stress sitting on and we think about what we have to do, it doesn't set the most positive tone and we're probably very stressed out. I heard something so interesting, and it was called the 3M strategy. 3M morning strategy. And if you know, in wellness, Sipho, what does mean? It's like isn't it? It's like calming. So 3M is like and that 3M broken down is meditation or mindfulness. And that literally could be taking 3 big breaths in the morning. It could be that simple, because working mommies all know that it's not so easy getting that time. The second one around that is move. And if you don't have time to exercise, a few little stretches, even 5 minutes will do. Get some movement in there. That movement actually helps clear the brain. It actually has a physical effect on you and how getting things moving. And then the third one is motivation. Do something positive. What I actually like doing is listening to my favorite song in the morning, because it makes me feel good. Other people might read something or a poem, or read their favorite book, or do an affirmation. I know, Theodore, you were talking about that. But those 3 things help set the tone for your day. And I encourage you, be observant of it. Because if you observe yourself on the day that you do a 3M and a day you don't, I bet you your productivity is going to double from one day to the next. So I encourage you, next week when we come back here, give it a try. And I'd love you to just share your feedback from it and tell us what you think, if it worked for you. Of course, if you don't know what the Progressive Business Forum is, it's a program of the ANC, but our job is really to encourage and build businesses in South Africa to help stimulate economies, build an Ubuntu economy. We do it on a large scale for enterprises, but we also do it for small businesses. If you want to know more, if you want us to send you more information, please go to pbf.org.za. All the information is there. Or even better, you want the most recent information, go to our Facebook site at ANCPBF. The nice thing about our Facebook site is that many don't know the importance of Parliament. If you have ever heard of the people shall govern, and it's true, you have got power. And this is not just power in yourself internally, it's influence of how laws change, how things happen. We don't have to sit here and complain about what's happening. You yourself can contribute and be part of it. So have a look at our Facebook site, see how you can be part of parliamentary decision making. It's there for everyone to participate. And in fact, the participation is necessary to make good decisions within government and to move things forward. Thank you, everybody, for being here. That's me.
Thank you so much, SASHA. Thank you for that. And thank you for sharing the 3 M's. And I was tempted to throw in another M, like mantras. And Theo, earlier on, when he started the session, we had to repeat, it's been rough, it's been tough, I am still standing. So whether you want to use affirmations or mantras, all of these fall under the umbrella of mindfulness. And it's been so beautiful how everyone has actually touched on it without us really going on into deep detail that it's all about mindfulness. And it is definitely somewhere there. Karabo, I know you wanted to make an input, and I definitely want to give you the opportunity to do so. Yes, please, let's hear from you. We can't hear you. I don't know if anybody else can hear him.
Hi, hello. Testing 1, 2, 3.
Are you there?
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. What I would have loved to add is that. Thank you, Trish. is that education is very important in selling nowadays, mainly because we are selling from remote areas. So people don't trust us, or because they don't know us. So coming from a virtual environment, it's very important to educate our prospective customers, our audience, about our business and what we offer. So it's very key that we inform them about the values and the solutions that our products can offer them. And then also what I would have liked to ask Brett in particular is that when being humble and serving a community, right, there's always a patience threshold that people get, because there's only so much we can offer for free. When does that stop, or when does that end? And because if I'm offering value for 3 months, 6 months without closing a sale, I think I'd be demotivated. So what then can one do in that situation? Thank you so much.
Karaba, sorry, Brett has had to leave us. He didn't finish saying he's so sorry he had to leave.
He's still here.
Please, are you there, Brett? Oh, awesome.
Then I need to go. I think what we need to remember is that we must always be giving value non-stop to our communities. That never stops, and our audiences. In terms of how long it takes to build a community, if you're trying to build a community in less than 3 years, then you're just not going to get there. It literally takes years. If you speak to any influencer or anybody who commands any sort of influence over an audience, nobody's gotten to any sort of point of real influence in under 3 years. There are ways to fast track it, but that typically comes from an outside source, like they might have been a celebrity or they might have been featured somewhere very highly, and all of a sudden they've jumped. But typically, it's going to take you a few years, and you need to be giving that value. And there's a difference between giving value and giving away everything for free. You don't have to give somebody everything, but if you give them value, the people that are going to just take what you put out for free are not going to be your consumers anyway, because, or at least not at that point of time. But next year they might be, or in 2 years' time they might be, as they've used what you've given them and they've built their businesses or built their audiences or built their products off of what the value that you've given them. You'll be the first person they go back to when they can afford your services.
Oh, thank you, Brett. I really appreciate that.
Cool. Lovely to meet you all. Sorry, I've got to run.
Brett, thank you very much. It was good to have you on the platform.
Thank you.
Okay, everyone, that brings us to the end of our session. We are 30 minutes over, and we really don't mind, because these conversations are always good, and I'm always grateful for everyone who's able to stay on. And we will definitely be back next week and still focusing on business resilience, which is very critical, especially now as we are navigating our way to the lower levels of lockdown. And obviously there's definitely always a new way of being when it comes to the levels. Obviously there's new regulations and all of that. And from my side, it's just ready to express gratitude, Theo, Sasha, Trish, and everyone who's joined us. And Trish, I'd like to hand over to you for your closing words.
Thank you, people. Thank you for I appreciate it for the action. It is what we need. The support button really and experts having amazing shares, with the authors. Sorry, I think it's
Sorry about that, everyone. I just had to run across just to alert Trish of the bad network. I don't know whether you guys were able to hear that. Trish, if you can just come back on. Okay, they were not able to hear that. Can you just come back on and let's hear how you sound now.
Sorry, can you repeat? My network is very bad here. Just a little.
Can I suggest that you maybe do the closing? I'm sorry.
So a lesson in resilience, everybody. I'm now at SIPHOKAZI's computer. This is my third office today, just saying. I came from one office where we had no power to another office where my network was bad, and now it seems like I might just stay here for the day. Sorry, Sipho. But yes, a lesson in resilience. Thank you, everybody. Our experts were amazing. Theo, what an inspiring presentation. Everybody's going to love seeing it. It was absolutely awesome. We're going to share that with, as many people as possible, because I just think that the more we can educate people, also not really educate, but guide people, the better off our companies are going to be. Brett, what an inspiration. Wow, awesome. You give us all hope, Brett. Thank you. SASHA, you're always incredible. We love chatting to you, and also so inspiring. And of course, my partner in crime is the best. She's no longer here. I've taken her desk. But to all our participants, thank you for participating. Thank you for your feedback. Thank you for your questions. It makes it so much more relevant if people continue to ask us questions and give us their feedback, because the more relevant it is, the more we can really, turn our businesses around from just surviving to thriving. So really, today was very awesome. I think we all really enjoyed it, but not only that, we learned so much. Sash, do you have a last word for us?
Oh gosh, I'm stuck. Breathe. Oh, guys, I'm sure the weekend is coming. Have a wonderful level 2. I'm sure there are plenty of family everybody wants to catch up to. And, shake it off and join us back. And please, personal business questions to Resilience. We'd love to hear from you. Send it to helpdesk@pbf.org.za. We will facilitate it and make sure they become topics in our next week's talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much. And thank you for bearing with us in the moving about. It's all about resilience after all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.